Hello everyone. I haven't really recorded a video in like 3 weeks, so I think it's time for me to let you know what I've been reading. In the month of January, I've read 4 full things. The first thing that I finished this year was Full of Beans by Jennifer L. Holm. This is a story that follows our main character Beans as he is growing up in Key West during the Great Depression and the New Deal era. It follows him and his friends trying to make a couple extra bucks and the hardships that these families in the neighborhood are facing because of the Great Depression. The main theme that you're getting in this children's book is how far can you take a lie, and like when is it okay to lie and when should you fess up. I think the strongest qualities in this book, the things that I enjoyed the most, was definitely the setting and the time period. I never read a historical fiction children's book set in this time period or even in this place. The author definitely did do a lot of research to get to the time period and what the kids are doing right. In the back of the book, she leaves an author's note and tells you the real history that helped inform what the characters were doing in her fictional story. One thing specifically is a lot of the New Deal people are coming into Key West to try to make it into a resort town to kind of start funneling in some money and help the town itself. The kids help clean up the town as well. That's something that actually happened in Key West during the New Deal, which I thought was really interesting to read about. However, there were a lot of things in this book that I did not like, and that included the characters themselves. They were very two-dimensional. I felt like a lot of the things that they said were very cliched sounding. I mean, it's not because she is using like 1930s style phrases or anything like that. The metaphors she used, for example, she said multiple times like a hurricane, so something happened like a hurricane. And after a while, like the third time I hear the same metaphor, I'm just like, okay, we get it. It was told to me in a very monotone kind of way, very predictable, and I kind of knew every step of the way what was going to be happening. I don't think children's books need to be like super unpredictable, but I think that you can be creative in a children's book and make a historical story still be very engaging. That's something that, for example, The Watsons Go to Birmingham in 1963 did very well. It doesn't capture just children, it captures everyone, and that's a good children's story to me. There was a point in the story also where we almost got clarity and we kind of had these two opposing characters, our main character and his grandmother, talk to each other about this lying thing, but then they didn't even allow the grandmother to have a say in anything. So it was kind of like a wasted moment for me, and I didn't really get the lesson of when we can be lying and when we shouldn't be lying. The next book that I read was Today Will Be Different by Maria Semple, and as always, Maria Semple is hilarious. In this one, she focuses on our main character Eleanor, who has kind of the same quirky personality as Bernadette had in Where'd You Go, Bernadette. In this story, Eleanor is trying to take it a day at a time, like her life is such a mess. So she promised herself this day she was going to be more calm and more in the moment and stop letting things like take over her mind. While she's going through this day, she's trying to think about the relationships that she has in her life and how she can make them better, specifically with her sister. I love Maria Semple's references. I think she's funny and like with the times. She makes fun of social justice things in a way that I find humorous, and some people when they read this book might think that she's saying kind of questionable things, but I think she's being very satirical, and that's like the whole point of her stories. She takes a place, she takes a corporation, she takes like a movement, and she kind of pokes holes at everything. And I think we can laugh at ourselves. I think that's something that's good. So I like reading about those kinds of things. I saved a bunch on my phone so I could read them out loud too, so you can kind of get a sense of what I mean. This is Eleanor's gratitude list that she imagines Joe is making about her. If Joe would ever leave her, these are the reasons why. 1. Once I ate a bagel on the toilet. 2. I use too much floss. 3. I floss in bed. 4. I take the dog into the shower with me to wash him. Number 5, this one killed me. I take my first bite of popcorn at the movies by touching my tongue to the top of the popcorn and eating what sticks. But Joel always says he doesn't want popcorn because it's too salty, so it's mine, and can I eat it the way I want? Number 6, I toss milk duds into the popcorn. 7, actually, I bite the milk duds into 4 pieces and spit them back into my popcorn so they're smaller, giving me a better popcorn to milk dud ratio. Yes, they're covered in saliva, but it's my saliva. Though I can see now to someone reaching into the popcorn he says he wasn't going to eat, it could be an issue. So there were definitely a lot of laugh out loud moments, but this was not as good as Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and that's just the truth of it. I was kind of hesitant coming into it because I was nervous that it was not going to live up to how much I enjoyed Where'd You Go, Bernadette. And I think for me it was that the relationship between Eleanor and her sister was not as explored as well as I wanted it to. I thought just like the second half of the book did not make me laugh out loud as much as the first half to make up for the fact that the relationship wasn't explored as well. I thought maybe if it just continued to be funny, I'd be okay with it not actually being a story that has like emotional impact on me, but it wasn't funny and it didn't have an emotional impact for me towards the end. So those are kind of the not so good things of Today Will Be Different. So if you want something funny, go for it. It's really short. It's only like 250 pages. But if you haven't read Where'd You Go, Bernadette, I'd say pick Where'd You Go, Bernadette over Today Will Be Different. So those are the first two things I read. The next two were actually graphic novels, graphic memoirs. The first one was Alex and Ada Volume 1, and this is the beginning of this AI comic. There's only 3 volumes total, I think, so I'm always on the lookout for shorter graphic novel series, just so I can keep up with them. So this one follows Alex, who is given by his grandmother this new AI robot thing. He at first doesn't want it. He's like, I want a real person. But then he starts questioning himself and like, maybe there is more in her brain and I kind of want to learn more about her and allow her to sort of become like a real person. I like the whole subject here. I think this is an interesting topic to read about. I think I would have had a lot more fun if Alex's reasoning had been better explained to me. I just didn't really understand why he wanted to allow this robot to kind of have like human thoughts before any real connection was formed between them. He's just like, let's go for it. And that's the main problem I had with this. I just didn't understand Alex and why he cared about her so much that he wanted to change her settings right away, especially when he was so adamant about getting rid of her earlier. And it has to do, I think, with him breaking up with his girlfriend beforehand, but even that's not very well explained. So overall, I just thought that this would be better, especially because of the topic here. I just think the setup wasn't as good as I expected it to be. But I do have the second volume and I will give it a shot just because the series is so short. Maybe in the second volume his reasonings will be better explained and his arguments for doing this will be better explained. I just think things are probably going to blow up in his face and that would be okay with me. And the last thing that I read was French Milk by Lucy Knisley. This is Lucy Knisley's first work and it's her going to Paris with her mom, so she focuses on these like 10 weeks that she was there with her mom. So it's mostly her talking about what she's eating, what she's seeing, what she's feeling, what she's thinking, especially because she's about 21, 22 here, so it's like her trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life and like applying to her grad school, her having all of these emotions about, you know, becoming an adult, as well as some things about her boyfriend and her friends back home being apart from all of that. This, I think, is definitely not as good as her other work. You can tell this is very debut-ish. So she's trying to find, I think, like the way she wants to tell stories. But I do see how she has grown from here. There is no introspection here really. It's more, this is what I bought, this is what I ate, this is what I did with my day. But there's not a lot of her exploring her relationship with her mother or even her friends back home. They're kind of just mentioned and you're expected to know who they are and what they mean to her. But it felt like a nice diary of what I could do if maybe one day I go to Paris. If you haven't read Lucy Knisley, I say pick up some of her other stuff before you get to this one, because this one might turn you off a little bit. I have heard a lot about like, oh, she's just complaining throughout this entire thing, and that is a good criticism, I understand that, but it wasn't enough to deter me from finishing it. So that's what I thought of French Milk. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.